I've got 5 graphing tips for the TI-84 that you should absolutely know. It's going to save you time and help you ace that next exam. We're going to go ahead and start just by putting some equations into our equation editor. I'm going to click here on y equals, and I want to put in, I'm going to do an x squared. So I'm going to go x caret 2 plus 12, so plus 12, and then hitting enter. I'm also going to do a line. Let's do 8x plus 3. Now before we hit graph, let's make sure that you've got your settings correct so that you'll see your graphs. The first thing that you want to check is that the equals has been highlighted. So notice that I'm just arrowing over to it with my left arrow, and if I hit the enter button, it will unhighlight it. Hitting it again will highlight it. So anything that has a highlighted equals will be graphed. You also want to make sure as you arrow up here that these plots are not highlighted. So if you happen to have one that's highlighted, and I can highlight it just by hitting enter, you're going to have a hard time seeing your other graphs. I'm going to hit enter one more time. So I've got my plots unhighlighted and my graphs ready to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and graph by just clicking on the graph button, and then I'm going to show you the first really great shortcut. So as I hit graph, all I see is that line. In order to see the other one, I'm not going to just like zoom in and zoom out. Instead, I'm going to do a zoom fit. Now it doesn't show up here, so you've got to scroll all the way down. I think it's going to be like number 10, which is 0. So you could just type in the number 0 and then enter, and then it shows me both that parabola and the line. Now the second zoom trick that I want to show you is zoom standard. I actually use this when I graph instead of hitting the graph button. So if I go back to zoom and then I choose zoom standard by either arrowing down and then hitting enter, or by hitting number 6, I get back to that original -10 to 10 viewing window, and it's -10 in the X direction and in the Y direction. Next, I'm going to show you how to trace, and you might already know how to trace, but I'm going to show you how to trace the easy way. Let's go back to zoom fit so that we can see both of those graphs. So I'm going to click zoom, and then I'm just going to type the letter 0 to get to zoom fit so I can see both of my graphs. Now the trace button is right here, and as I hit the trace button, it gives me a cursor, and I can arrow to the right and to the left, and you'll see those coordinates at the bottom of your graph changing as I move along my graph. I can arrow up and down to change which graph I'm on. Right now, and I'm on my TI-84 Plus CE. CE is for color. Yours might not have the color, but if you look up here at the top, it shows you which graph you're on. So I'm on Y1, which is x squared plus 12. If I hit the down arrow, it switches me to up here again is Y2, which is 8x plus 3. So even if yours aren't colored, you'll be able to see which one is which. Now I can trace, again, by going to the right and to the left, but that's a really painful way to find any of my coordinates. The easiest way to do this, as long as you've hit that trace button, you can just type in any number. Say I want to know what's happening when x is equal to 0. I can just type 0 and then enter, and it says that 0 has a y coordinate of 3. Let's say I want to know what's happening at 6. I can hit 6 and then enter, and I know that 6 is 51. And that's on that 8 times 6 plus 3 is 51. I can do the same thing, of course, with that blue graph by arrowing down to get to the blue graph. Next, I'm going to show you what's in the CALC menu. And if you haven't explored the CALC menu, there's some really, really amazing tools here. The CALC menu is second of trace. So we're going to do second followed by trace, and it brings up several different options for me. Let's go ahead and do value first. I think of value as evaluating for a particular x. It's actually a lot like what we just did with trace. So I'm in the CALC menu, I'm at number 1 for value. I can just hit enter, or you can type the number 1. I'm going to hit enter. So enter, and it says x equals what? Well, let's see what's happening when x is equal to 0, and then enter. It gives me 0 and 12 on my x squared plus 12 graph. If I arrow down, it tells me that on my 8x plus 3 graph, 0 has a y coordinate of 3. Now I can just type another number again here. What did I do? 6. And if I hit 6 and then enter, it gives me that value of 51. I can arrow up or down to get to my other graph, and it tells me that on x squared plus 12, 6 matches with a y coordinate of 48. But calc had lots of functions. Let's do another calc function. So second followed by calc. It will also find a 0 for you. I'm actually going to skip by this one because I want to show you how to do the minimum and the maximum. To do a minimum, so if I hit enter here for minimum, see that my parabola has that minimum. It's the vertex, and I can figure out what the coordinates are of that vertex by asking it for a minimum. Now it steps me through this process. It says, what is your left bound? Now my minimum is right here. So to get to my left bound, I'm gonna hit the left arrow. And I'm just gonna move along my graph until I get over to the left of, I'm almost past it, to the left of my minimum. Anywhere over there is great. And then we will hit enter. And then it says, what is your right bound? And I'm going to use my right arrow to get to my right bound, just anywhere to the right of that minimum, and then hit enter. And then it says, what's your guess? I actually never do the guess. I just hit enter again because it's faster, and I hit enter again. And it tells me that my minimum is 2.7588e negative 6. This is 2.75 times 10 to the negative 6. It's your calculator trying really, really, really hard to tell you that it's got an x coordinate of 0 and then a y coordinate of 12. We could do a maximum the same way. Let's go back into that calc menu. My graph happens to not have a maximum, so I'm not going to do a maximum, but there are two intersections. So let's arrow down and do the intersections. So for number 5 intersections, I can find, see there's 2 points here where the line and the parabola cross. Let's go ahead and do those. It says, what do you want your first curve to be? Mine is on x squared plus 12. That works great. I will hit enter to select it. And then it's guessing that my second curve is 8x plus 3, and it is. I'm going to hit enter. And then it says, what's your guess? So I'm just going to put it like over here. So just close to where that is, and then I'm going to hit enter. And it gives me that intersection point of about 1.35, comma, the y value is 13.833. And I can do it again for the other intersection point. But I want to show you the other functions there. So second calc, if you happen to be in a calculus class, or even if you're not, these last two functions are for you. dy dx, this is the change in y over the change in x, or the rise over the run. If you're in calculus, you know that this is the derivative, but if you are in algebra, you can think of this as the slope of your curve at a particular point. Let's go ahead and do this dy dx. Let's do this derivative. I'm going to hit enter. It wants to know what curve you're on, and it also wants you to select the point that you want your derivative or your slope. I'm just going to type in, instead of tracing, which I could do, so I can trace, I can go to the other graph, but I'm going to do it with a blue one. And instead of tracing, I'm going to use the easier method, and I want to find the derivative or the slope when x is equal to 3. I hit enter, and it says that that derivative dy dx is equal to 6. As a bonus, it also gives you y equals 21. So if you happen to be finding the equation of a tangent line, this is the way to do it. You've got your slope and you've got your point. There are lots of other calc features that the TI-84 does, but you'll have to wait for another video for those, because I want to show you the next tip, and that's working with a table. Now to get into this table, we're going to go to second of graph. So I'm going to go second followed by graph. And notice that I've got my x coordinates set for me, and then I've got the y coordinates. So this tells me that 0, 12 is on that parabola. 0, 3 is on that line. But I don't want it just to give me these values. I want to be able to type in my own x's. So this is where the power, the trick comes in for using these tables. We want to set up that table. To get to that table setup, I want to go second of window. See, it says table set up there in blue. So second followed by window. I'm going to leave everything here except this independent variable. The independent variable is the x. I'm going to arrow over and then hit enter to change that one to ask. Now when I go to my table, so I'm going to do second followed by table, I end up with this empty graph, which is waiting for me to type in numbers. I can type in a 0 and it gives me those values. Let's see, we did a 6 earlier, and it gives me the 2 y values for each of those graphs. Finally, I've got a bonus power move for you, and this is going to be in your equation editor, which is kind of the home screen for graphing this y equals screen. So I'm going to go to the y equals screen just by clicking y equals. Now we've already seen how to change the display settings by changing that equals to be unhighlighted. If you happen to have a CE, you can arrow over one more to the left and you can change that color. So if you happen to have this one, you would hit enter and it gives you some color options. Notice it's prompting you to go to the left and the right to go through those different color options. I'm just going to leave it on red and then arrow down and then hit OK. Once you've got some equations in here, you can recall them really easily using this vars key. Say that I want to take that parabola and I want to stretch it by a factor of 2. I want 2 times that parabola. So I'm going to go 2 times, and then to grab that y1, I go to vars, and then arrowing over to the right to y vars, I do want 1, which is already selected for function. I hit enter, and I want 1 again, and I hit enter. And graphing this one, let's do a zoom fit to graph it. So I'm going to hit the number 0 to do that zoom fit, and you can see that I've got that parabola that's been doubled. I would love it if you shared your favorite graphing tips with us down in the comments below. I've got another video for you here.